Fruitful Living with Sissel Anderson. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey. And today on, Sissel Anderson's going to be talking about Protestant evangelist Johnny Chang's wild take on the Lord's Prayer. This is a very interesting take for sure. But good morning, Sissel.
Keith, it's good to be with you.
Yeah, likewise. So I was trying to I was just thinking because, the Lord's Prayer is in the Bible, and Johnny Chang's take is that he doesn't think we should pray it. So I'm kind of at a loss of words. I don't know what to think about this one.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. I think this is something that he said for a long time. And for those unfamiliar, Johnny Chang, I don't know if he calls himself a pastor or not, because I don't think he has a physical church, but he's like an online influencer who does daily devotionals, does podcasts, all the usual things, all about his faith journey. And so no disrespect to him. And I know that I'm sure his intentions are good. However, something that he said a while ago is making the rounds on the internet again. It's kind of going re-viral, that he says that he does not pray the Lord's Prayer. And I was like, that's fascinating. Let me learn more about this. So his reasoning, this is what his reasoning is that when the Lord gave us the Lord's Prayer, so for anyone who doesn't remember exactly the context, but the apostles say, Lord, teach us to pray, and he gives them this formula, the Our Father, which kind of hits all the bases of our prayer. It's asking God to, forgive us our trespasses, give us our daily bread, help us to forgive others. It's covering a lot of things. And actually, it's about forgiving is the problem that Johnny has with it, is because he says that when the Lord gave it to us, he was alive. And so it made sense for us to ask for forgiveness. But now that he has died for our sins, why would we continue to ask for forgiveness? And I thought, okay. And in the most vague way, I understood it, especially being, Protestant background myself. But I thought it was very fascinating because it opens up an interesting conversation. And it also kind of shows the biggest problem with the Protestant culture, with Protestant churches, is that that's just him reading and interpreting the Bible the way that he thinks it is. And there was nothing guiding him on maybe there's a reason why we still continue to pray the Our Father, and there's a reason why we continue to ask for forgiveness. And I think it's just a general misunderstanding about how the Lord works and how our free will works. I don't know. Initial thoughts on that, Keith?
Yeah, like you were saying, it makes more sense the way you helpfully unpacked the reasoning why, because he died for, essentially because he died for our sins, we don't have to ask for forgiveness, which doesn't,
It doesn't really make sense.
No.
It's a hot take, I think, even in Protestant circles. The Protestant churches I grew up going to, we said the Our Father every single service. Like, that was just a very normal part of, that was like the one thing, in my opinion, that the Catholics and Protestants could agree on. You know what I mean? It's one of the things that we're like, we all agree this is an amazing prayer that we should all say. But so the way he's saying it is that God has already, Jesus came, he died for our sins, so there's no need for us to ask for forgiveness. But that's a very confused way of looking at it, because think about it, Keith. I'm sure growing up, maybe with your parents, you may have done some things that you needed to ask for forgiveness for. I know I did. Yeah. You knew that your parents were going to forgive you. Hopefully everyone listening who has good parents know that their parents are going to forgive them. They may be really mad. They may be very mad, but they are going to forgive you. And like, if you've been raised in a really good household where your parents have made that clear with their love that they are going to forgive you no matter what you do, does that mean we don't ask them for forgiveness? Does that mean we don't do that act? I think it's really wild, because we need to ask for forgiveness, because we're going to continue to sin. And if we were just able to, your parents didn't make you ask for forgiveness and didn't ask you to ask for forgiveness, that might be taking advantage of the mercy that they're giving you, and the Catholic Church is, in its wisdom, being founded by Jesus, and his wisdom has very clear things, very physical ways that we walk our faith journey. So we go to confession. We have to physically go and, are kneeling with the priest and, in the person of Christ, and say all of our sins out loud to him, which again, from the Protestant perspective, that's a really wild thing to do. They say, why can't we just go directly to the Lord? I could just talk to him any time of the day. And I'm like, first off, we could do that too. We could do that at any point in time. As soon as you've done a sin, I recommend you immediately go, Father, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Absolutely. But it's kind of an out to not have to do anything more than that. It's kind of an out to just say, oh yeah, well, I talked to the Lord and I apologized. Okay, well, now what? There's nothing that is helping us like actually reflect and grow from that, because we're not having to sit before God, with a priest in the place of Jesus and him saying, I forgive you. And I don't think until you've experienced that, if you're coming from a Protestant background, until you've experienced being told that you're forgiven by someone who is standing in the place of Christ for you, I don't think you understand how amazing that is. And, and how much you needed that in your spiritual life. So saying something like we don't need to ask for forgiveness is just, it's very damaging, I think, to say that. And it just kind of, again, shows some of the issues in Protestant circles, because they very much go on the once saved, always saved, and that you have been forgiven. Like Jesus Christ died for all of us, which is true, but we don't all take advantage of that forgiveness. We don't take advantage of him dying for us. We do not use our free will well to actually, move forward with that.
Right. And I think oftentimes it helps for us to think of the salvation as a gift, and we can either accept the gift, or we can just, as a normal gift, like we'd get from, a family member, we could just toss it off to the side.
Right.
Doesn't mean we can't go back and grab the gift. Right. So yeah, it's just, it's hard to, I guess, I don't know, like how do you talk to someone who's really intertwined in this thought? Because I know you kind of come from that circle. So how do you deal with someone who has that ideal?
It's really interesting, because I'd say most Protestant circles are very much on the once saved, always saved. There are smaller sects of Protestantism, including ones that I was part of, that didn't entirely believe that, but also it was kind of a confused semi-Catholic but not fully committing kind of belief system, where they're like, well, yes, of course you have to be super intentional. You can't just like say that you're going to be saved forever, but also there's no like path on how you live that. And so I would say you have to take people with their in very personal situations to them, like talking about like, okay, well, if someone did this sin against you, how would you want them to move forward? And then say, well, why would Jesus not want that too? Like, why would Jesus not ask for, like, desire us to ask for forgiveness? And in that time, I'm sure everyone also can relate to that, when either you have sinned against someone and you've had to ask for forgiveness, or someone has done that to you, how much closer and how much more beautiful that relationship is afterwards. Like it could be super awkward. It could be really terrible. Like, again, I know I had to ask forgiveness from my parents all the time growing up. I was not a great kid always. And so it was hard, but it made us that much closer, and it helped me better align my words, my actions, and the way I lived my life towards what my parents desired, which was ultimately what God desired. And so I think if you take it from a very personal perspective of, well, how would you want to be treated? How would you want to go about this? I think would be really helpful. And obviously just pray for people to be open to understanding that. It's so ingrained in Protestant culture to just kind of like, you should make your profession of faith, get baptized, and then you're good. And you could just go about living your life and just try your best to, follow God's commandments. But it's lacking intentionality to truly be able to kind of rid those sins, make this transformation here on earth, so that we can prepare ourselves for heaven.
And even on the kind of the same aspect of forgiveness, when maybe you break something of your brother or sisters, or maybe something happens where something's destroyed and you want to ask for forgiveness, but then you also should replace or fix what was broken. And I think that's the beautiful part about confession, is that, yes, our sins are forgiven, but then we have the opportunity to do penance, to make things right with God. And that's kind of the sense with just kind of friends and family. If we do something wrong to someone, we got to make it right as
Yes.
well as ask for forgiveness.
Yeah, we want to be able to make amends because you know that there's going to be that kind of gap in the relationship unless you do that. And so imagine how many gaps we have in our relationship with God, all the times we didn't ask for forgiveness. So, might want to get on that. So the overall lesson here: please continue to pray the Our Father.
Yeah.
Please continue to ask for forgiveness. That's a really important part of our faith life. Father David Michael Moses does a great breakdown of this claim. I think it was pretty recent. He posted it on his YouTube channel, so you can find it there. And he has some more wisdom on this claim. And of course, pray for our Protestant brothers and sisters, and pray for all your Catholic brothers and sisters. We're all struggling on this journey together. But just keep your head up and say the Our Father. I heard something really beautiful the other day from a couple who they help other couples learn how to pray together and the importance of couples praying together. And they said if you've never done it before, a really beautiful and easy way to start the routine is to every night as you're getting into bed is to look at each other and pray the Our Father out loud together. And that's like the starting point. And so we got to make sure we take advantage of the beauty of this prayer that Jesus literally handed to us. This is written by him. So I can't think of anything better that you could say.
No, that's awesome. Wow. Well, thank you so much once again, Sissel, for joining us. And for those out there, just a reminder to tune in every single Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern, for Back to the Father. It's streamed all on the social media outlets where Sissel produces and Dave kind of essentially hosts, talking all about St. Thomas Aquinas. And I'm assuming you continue the conversation on the Eucharist, right?
Oh, I assume so. I only find out a couple days or a couple hours really before everyone else. But yes, we're going to continue on our conversation with the Eucharist.
Love it. Well, thanks again, Sissel. And that is the end of our first hour of Morning Joy, where truth matters. Now, if you're unable to stick around with us after the break, we'll definitely have the second portion ready for you to go, either on Spotify or Apple Podcast or YouTube. So for those leaving, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning, Thursday, 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern. Make it a joyful day. If you're staying with us, hang tight. In the second hour, we're talking with author Charles Coulombe to share Empress Zita's story. So stick around to hear how this servant of God kept hope alive for her family and her people. And don't forget, tomorrow morning on Morning Joy, Alan Smith will be joining us for his Bishop Sheen Today segment. But once again, this is us parting ways for the last time. Make it a joyful Wednesday. If you're hanging with us, we'll be right back after this quick coffee break. Stay tuned.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.